Picture this. You're behind schedule on packing for your upcoming trip to the Bahamas. Don't worry, we've all been there. You then realize you don't have a swimsuit. Tragic. How will you get tan? Feeling embarrassed and defeated, as you should. You start to panic. How am I going to get a swimsuit? Well, don't worry, there's Shein. Thank God. You find the best swimsuit you've ever seen, but it'll be at your house in 2 weeks. That's too far. You leave in 3 days. The unthinkable happens, and you see, by the grace of God, an option to do 2-day shipping. But how is that Shein swimsuit going to get from the factory in China to you? A plane. Duh. Boats aren't that fast. That's what I want to be a part of. The idea of being part of something bigger has always made me feel important. You might be thinking that a swimsuit isn't that important, but it's not just cheap swimsuits that cargo planes transport. It's everything from medical devices, cars, and food. I love the feeling that I am helping the world in a small way. The job that I have as a pilot won't be directly impacting lives of people because I'll be flying around cargo. As we have all seen in the past few months, this is a crucial part of the world's economy. I mean, it takes weeks to get anything nowadays. It's insane. The global economy relies heavily on cargo planes to get supplies to different parts of the world. Planes are used in everything from transporting your Amazon package, that's Shein swimsuit, and the COVID-19 vaccine all over the world. I think it's the coolest thing to be a part of something so big and so important, and to just be one of those little moving parts that make the whole thing work. My original mission statement was bringing joy through aviation. As I progressed through my capstone, I realized that just isn't me. The thing that makes me happy and makes me love flying as much as I do is the thought that I can do something that doesn't directly impact that many people, but if I can do it to the best of my ability, then it's worth it. If I can be the very best pilot I can be, however that may look. God put this desire to fly in me for a reason. I think that reason isn't to go fly missions trips or transport people and make their dreams come true, or to spread the gospel to little islands. Rather, I think it's to use my gifts to their fullest potential. I think it's good to be able to work for the Lord whatever you do. We're put on this earth and told to work for God, and I think it's cool to do that. A Bible verse that relates to this is Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. What you love doing to the fullest potential. This verse speaks to one of the biggest parts of my capstone. Doing what you do to the fullest of your potential. I also just like this verse because many people do not do what they do with all their heart, and I want to make sure that anything I do, I give it my all. Something I learned from Surprisingly, one of the things I learned from flying a plane by myself was how to have courage. You would think that flying a plane alone, would come with a lot of different struggles. What if something happened? What if my engine quit? What if I suddenly forgot how to land or something like that? Those are real possibilities. I mean, not me forgetting how to land, but the engine one. I had to prepare for if my engine quit, what I would do in that situation. That's good to think about, don't get me wrong. It's good to know how to land without an engine, but the thing being up there all alone taught me most was to have courage. When the day of my solo came, I didn't know it was the day of my solo. A solo is when a student pilot flies a plane for the first time by themselves. I flew up to a little airport called Colorado Air and Spaceport with my instructor, like it was any other day. She just told me we were doing landing practice. Once I got up there, I soon learned that day was the day asking solo. At that moment, I was surprisingly calm, considering I was about to fly a plane for the first time by myself. But as I parked the plane to let my instructor off, it hit me that I was about to fly a plane by myself. Suddenly, I was petrified, but I didn't let my instructor see that I was scared because she wanted to let me solo. She then got out of the plane and told me to have fun. I could have responded to her by telling her that I didn't feel prepared. I could have responded to her by telling her that I didn't feel that today was the day, or that I didn't feel good. But instead of telling her all those things, which some were valid points, I responded by telling her to make sure she get a good shot of me landing for my Instagram. When I was faced with a huge task, and I very well could have backed down, I chosen the easy way out of things. I decided to suck it up and go fly. I am so glad that I chose to do this. It taught me a lot about flying planes and made me a more confident pilot. And the most important thing it taught me was to not back down in the face of a challenge. I wasn't unprepared by any means. I went through all the correct channels, and people made sure I knew how to be safe while flying. Still, a million things could have gone wrong. But I am so glad I ended up going that day, and up until that point in my life, it was the most fun thing I've ever done. Now I fly by myself all the time and I love it. Learning how to be courageous will help me a lot in my future life. And even though you can only fly a plane for the first time by yourself, I'm sure many more challenges will come up in my life where I'll be faced with difficult decisions on whether or not I should be courageous. And now I have the confidence to choose courage over fear. So that's a picture of me in front of the plane and my instructor, and then me flying the plane. Throughout my life, I haven't found too many things that I'm passionate about. Everything I tried, I liked it, but it was never really my thing until I found flying when I was 10 years old. The picture of the yellow plane is me when I was 10 years old. My mom has a friend who owns his own plane, and for my 10th birthday, he offered to take me up and fly me around. I kind of already knew that I liked flying, but I wasn't sure, so he took me up, and I got to fly for the first time. This experience was probably one of the best moments in my life. I remember every second of it. Then I decided that is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Throughout my capstone, I have learned more about the profession that I would like to go into. I interviewed an ex-FedEx pilot whose name is Anthony, who is also an old friend of my mother's. Anthony explained so much about being a pilot. And the more he told me, the more I wanted to become one. He told me about the schedule of a pilot, how much money they make, and how to balance a family with a demanding career. To become a pilot, you have to do a lot of studying. You first have to get your private pilot's license, then your instrument, then your commercial, then your multi, ATP, CFI, a bunch of different licenses. All those ratings have their own tests and requirements you have to complete to get them. Basically, what all I'm saying is that I'll have to study a lot to make my dreams come true. And that's something I'm willing to do and a little excited to do as well. I often joke around with people saying that flying is the love of my life. Although that is a bit of an exaggeration, I do truly believe that I cannot be as passionate about something as I am about flying. It is the best feeling to find something that you are passionate about. For a while, I thought that I would not be able to fly due to my Crohn's disease. I was feeling pretty bad for a while, so I didn't think a career in aviation would be possible for me. I started looking at other things that I might enjoy, like business. I'd be happy enough doing business, so I figured that's what I should do. Once I got feeling a bit better and got all my meds figured out, I realized that it is a possibility and I could pursue a career in flight, even if it meant things might be a little different for me than other people. I'd have to add some extra steps to everything if I did want to be a pilot, but I came to the realization that if that's what I wanted to do, I should follow my dreams and I'd be okay with that. I am so excited about what the future holds for me, and I cannot wait to make a career out of something that I'm so passionate about. As you would imagine, getting a license to fly a plane is a lot of work and takes a bit of time. That is what I thought, and that was an understatement. This is by far the hardest thing that I have done. And on top of this, I didn't have much control over the whole process, which was also hard. The amount of time that I thought it would take for me to get my license was 3 months. The weather in Colorado was not the best for flying, however. The hot summers and high altitude doesn't mix well. There's a term used in aviation called density altitude. Density altitude is, simply put, whatever altitude the plane thinks it's at. So even though the airport's elevation that I fly out of is 5,885 feet in the air, when it gets 80, 90 degrees in the summer, the plane thinks it's at 9,000 to 10,000 feet in the air, overall decreasing my performance. This can be very dangerous to pilots of smaller aircrafts because you are not able to get the same performance you would normally. Many small planes that crash in the summer can be linked to this high density altitude. But then there are the afternoon storms that come with flying in Colorado. As you can imagine, these are not good to fly in. With all of this combined, it took way longer to get my license than I thought it would. I had to continue to work on my license during the school year. This proved to be more challenging than I thought it would be. Think of everything that comes along with your senior year of high school. AP classes, this capstone project, the college application process, and just a harder year overall. Then having to study to be a pilot on top of it. I welcomed this challenge, and in the end, it turned out to be helpful to my future work ethic and my time management skills. I have almost 100 hours of flight time, and probably 3 times that on the ground studying. To get a pilot's license, you have to pass many different tests to make sure that you know what you're doing. I passed all my tests first try, and in January, I took my FAA written test. The written test is all the information you need to know on the ground to take your check ride, which is your final flight test. There are over 1,000 possible questions on the FAA written test. Although they only give you 60 on the actual test, you want to make sure you're prepared to know all the questions. questions. After passing that test, I started studying for my check ride. Those who are close to me are probably really sick of hearing me talk about my check ride, because for 2 months, that's all I could think about. The check ride includes a 1 to 3 hour oral test with a 2-hour flight portion. This flight test contains 6 different maneuvers, emergency procedures, navigation, and 4 different types of takeoffs and landings. This test is the first of many that I'll have to take to become an airline pilot. Airlines will look at these tests to see if they would like to hire you in the future. The FAA sends out an examiner to your airport, and that is who does the test. Having said all this, this was the most important thing that I have done in my life up to this point. I was a bit nervous for the test, but don't tell the FAA, they don't like nervous pilots. But I was a bit stressed, but all my studying and hard work paid off. And I passed my check ride, and my examiner liked all my answers and said I did great. Normally, an oral is supposed to be like 2 hours long on average. Mine was only an hour because he liked my answers, and he felt that I was qualified enough to just skip ahead. So, this was done with the help of myself, obviously, and my flight instructor, Marissa. She taught me almost everything I know about flying, although having a mom who's a pilot helps, I guess. With all of that being said, when I got my pilot's license, I was very excited and relieved. I was happy to finally be done with all the studying and finally happy to have my license. This allows me to fly people and fly different planes and do different things. One of those things that I plan to do with my license is aerobatics. I'm going to show a video of me doing aerobatics. So, as you can see, aerobatics is where I do flips and spins in the sky. This is done in a special plane that I will hopefully be qualified to fly soon. For Capstone, I had to do a research project. I decided to do this on aerobatics and spins. I went up with a guy on the Metro State flight team named Ryan. We did a bunch of spins and flips in the sky. Although this is extremely fun, I didn't go up with him just for the fun of it. I was getting my spin endorsement, which means that I am trained on how to get into and out of a spin, and I am also qualified to teach people how to do it. Kind of. For the license I have, you don't need to have a spin endorsement. Because it's a harder skill, it is only required to have once you are a flight instructor. But as a private pilot, I can still get myself into a spin, and I would like to know how to get out of one, even though I'm not a flight instructor. I won't get into everything, but spins can be very dangerous if you don't get out of them fast enough. You get into a spin when you lose lift, and that's called a stall. Normally, stalls are safe, and I do 2 stalls on my check ride to show the FAA that I can get into and out of them. The dangerous part is when your nose starts going left or right. This happens for 4 different reasons. P-factor, torque, spiraling slipstream, and gyroscopic precession all cause you to turn the nose of the plane to the left. So when you get, all this means is that can happen pretty easily, and that can be dangerous if you don't get out of the stall or spin. Once you get into spin, and if you don't recover fast enough, you get going too fast so that when you pull up on the yoke, your wings can rip off. Or you can get into a certain type of spin called a flat spin, where you're falling down like this, but you're perfectly flat, and you will not be able to recover from that maneuver and just fall, so you don't want to get into it. So this research project made me a safer pilot, and it also introduced me to a whole new part of aviation that I enjoy very much. Like I said before, I'll be taking aerobatics lessons over the summer, and if I enjoy it, I can hopefully find an aerobatics team and join later. My capstone changed after March 19th. That was the day that I got my private pilot's license. This means that I can fly whenever I want, and I can now take people up with me. I love the idea of taking someone up in a small plane and seeing their joy as they do something they have never done before. I think that it is really important to commit to the Lord whatever you do, as stated in Proverbs 16:3. I want to use my talent to the fullest potential I can. In whatever way, I want to always be continuously getting better. One of the ways I do this is flying with my mom. If you didn't know already, my mom is an airline pilot, as well as a flight instructor, and she has thousands of hours in the sky, and her input and expertise will be a huge advantage to me when we go up together. We fly together often, or I'd like to fly more, but the weather in Colorado is not very good right now. But she's my favorite person to fly with, and it helps you learn a lot when you have someone who knows so much about aviation. Like I said before, I plan to start doing aerobatics lessons, and I'm very excited to start those in the summer. One of the things this whole experience taught me is that if you truly love something and you are passionate about it, no matter what it is and how much work that thing is, it will make you happy. Earlier I said that aviation gave me passion and that it was the first thing I ever truly loved. That is the understatement of the century. I cannot convey in words how much I love flying. And it may be a bit cheesy, but finding something that you love makes all aspects of your life better. I encourage you to go try that thing you've always wanted to do. Whatever it is, what's the worst that can happen?